Hey everyone, it wasn't too long ago when I looked at the SLX cranks from the Shimano 12-speed drivetrain, and I call these the best bang for your buck. Now, ever since I've been getting questions about the XT version of those cranks. Are these better? Are these worth the 50% premium in price versus the SLX? Let's take a closer look. More specifically, we're looking at this Shimano M7100, that's the SLX, made in Japan, 170mm long, and the equivalent XT, which is M8100, again made in Japan, 170. And in this video, I'm going to cover the key differences in weight, finish, and design of the two cranksets. Weight comes quickly in the discussion between SLX and XT, and you can see the 170 with 32 tooth chainring at 413 grams, with a complete crankset coming up to 618 grams. So what do you think is the weight of the Dior XT cranks? Well, the same 170 with the original chainring, just the drive side arm comes to 415 grams, so that's 2 grams heavier. And once we add the two arms to the scale, surprise, surprise, here's your 633 grams. So the XT cranks are, 15 grams heavier than the SLX. Surprisingly, big part of that weight difference seems to come from the non-drive side crank. You see the SLX at 206 and the XT is gonna come up to 218. So that's your 12 grams right there. But comparison aside, these cranks are pretty good, even weight-wise, especially if you use them with a lighter chainring like this Absolute Black. When I reviewed the cheaper SRAM cranks, the carbon cranks, you could see how SLX with that Absolute Black next to the X1 carbon cranks from SRAM, the SLX is only 15 grams heavier than the SRAM crankset. So maybe that's one of the reasons why Shimano sticks with this Holotech design of their aluminum cranks as opposed to building some cheaper carbon cranks. Looks is another reason why we usually get the XT, and you see it next to the SLX, which by the way I covered in a comprehensive video even against the previous generation SLX. I like this 12-speed generation because the cranks don't have that bluish hue that you will see on the brakes, for instance, and the finish itself is one that should wear out pretty nicely, just like the old cranks. I have to admit that the XT still looks more premium. However, the glossy parts that you see here are just a protective film. For those of you that used XT cranks in the past, you know that they looked worn out rather quickly, mostly because of the paint being removed by your heel rub. The film protector should help with that, or at least allow you the chance to replace it when you see it worn out already. Finish is that semi-gloss that we're used to see with the XT, and the color seems to be consistent with other XT components in this 12-speed lineup. And the last minor difference in design between the two is the aluminum spider of the chainring. You see the XT1 being painted black, whereas the SLX is that lightish gray. But other than that, they look very similar, with SLX probably wearing out better, and with the XT looking more like the XTR these days. And the last part of our comparison, it's going to be the construction of the two cranksets. And the reality is that aside from the slight difference in the design of the two crank arms, these two cranksets are pretty much the same. They use the good old Shimano 24mm spindle made out of steel, and they use the new bottom brackets. M8100 would be the one that's common for XT and SLX. The installation of the two cranks is identical. It relies on that preload adjuster, and you have the two pinch bolts over here. I have that covered in the comprehensive review of the SLX. I'll list that up in the corner. Chainring design is the same aside from the color. So you have an aluminum spider and then a steel outer ring. This should make these chainrings last forever, or definitely longer than an aluminum chainring. And they use the Shimano tooth design for 12-speed. I have a video talking about chainrings for 12-speed. I'm going to make sure to link that up in the corner as well. The installation of the chainring will require the use of this new FC41 tool that is usually provided by Shimano and is very similar to the center lock. You have a locking ring that is just going to tighten the chainring to the crank arm. And finally, if you want to save about 60 grams or go oval, you can pick one of the many third-party chainrings already available in the market. By the way, this chainring from Shimano weighs 120 grams. So is the XT worth the extra money versus the SLX? As you can see, the XT is a bit heavier, about 15 grams heavier. It looks a bit better, closer to the XTR than the SLX. And for the construction, they're pretty much identical construction and different than XTR. So what would you guys choose, XT or SLX? Let me know in the comments below. Hope you found this useful. And if you did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. And until next time, hope to see you folks on the trails. Why not riding some Shimano cranksets? Cheers, guys. Cheers.